Hello and welcome to Spitfire Debates, brought to you by the Suffolk Voice in Studio 73. I'm your host, Mike McMahon. I'm here with Ricky Morin, our first show in 2 years. Let's jump right into it. Today we're talking about the World Series. All right, Ricky, what'd you think about John Lester's performance in Game 1?
Oh, just a masterful performance of pitching. 7 2/3 innings pitched, no earned runs, 8 strikeouts. Really commanded the outside part of the plate really well. Absolutely dominant against right-handed batters as well as left-handed batters, as he usually is. Very clutch performance. Game 1 of the World Series, always a big game to jump. Very important to come out strong in the World Series and take that first game, especially at home. Really gave the Red Sox a lot of confidence going forward.
Definitely. I definitely agree with you. It looked like he was working both sides of the plate really well, mixing up his speeds, doing a great job, great start, great momentum coming out. Another big thing was the offense finally kind of got around. Some of it might have had to do with the Cardinals' defense, but what were you more impressed? What were you more impressed by? Were you impressed by the Red Sox offense, or are you more like paying attention to the Cardinals' lapses in defense?
Well, at first I thought the offense really jumped on him quickly. Wainwright made a lot of early mistakes, which he doesn't usually do. Obviously, jumping out to 5 runs in the first 2 innings was huge. I think it was capitalized by those Cardinals errors, and I think a lot of people might look at those errors and say, oh, it was the errors that drew them in. But I think it was more of the offense jumping out first, and that might have rattled the Cardinals and actually might have been a cause for why they made so many mental errors.
Yeah, you could definitely see that there might have been a little bit rattled, especially Wainwright on that pop-up. You could see there was total confusion. Definitely wasn't confident in their abilities on the field. You know, you saw Cosma at second blow the transfer in the double play, which is really thankful that the umpires got together and made that right call, which might have been a little bit surprising. What did you think about that, the umpires actually coming together and overturning that call?
Well, I think a lot of people give the MLB some bad credit for having extra umpires for World Series games because a lot of people say, you know, you should be consistent, you should have the same number of umpires, but I think in this instance it really showed why it pays off. All of the umpires were watching the same play, they conferred and they said, yeah, he didn't catch it, and I thought it was the right decision was made, and you really can't argue that.
All right, definitely, yeah. Big time, big win in Game 1, 8-1, great start. But Game 2, you saw the defense for the Red Sox really come out and hurt them in Game 2, where they lost 4-2. A big part of that had to do with Breslow's error in the 8th inning, where he threw the ball away. Now, what were your thoughts on that play and Breslow deciding to throw that ball? Should he have held on to it? Should have Saltalamacchia come off the plate to get it? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the first part of the play, you would have liked to see Saltalamacchia knock that ball down, you know, keep it in front of him. But Breslow throwing that ball to third, you can understand why he did it. You can understand the thinking. It's a big run, go-ahead run in the 8th inning. You want to cut down that runner. You can understand the excitement, the anxiety. But ultimately, it was a throw that didn't have to be made, and the Red Sox paid the price for it.
Definitely. It looked very Little League out there. You know, when one of the balls being thrown around the field, you know, more than like 3 or 4 throws in a play, it's unacceptable. A lot of it, though, you know, Saltalamacchia, as a major league catcher, you got to know that it's ball first. It's ball before the runner. And, you know, Tim McCarver said it, which, you know, one of the few things he says that I agree with, is the catcher's got to come off the plate there and make that play,
Absolutely.
In my personal opinion. The priority is the ball. The ball can't get through. And if the ball never gets by Saltalamacchia, John Jay never makes the move to third. Because you saw John Jay, the only reason why that play even happened was because he made a base running mistake. He went too far on the line drive, and he had to hustle back to second, when he probably should have been tagging or shouldn't have been as far off the base either. He had to dive back into second base. So you see all of those things factor in, and if Saltalamacchia just came off the plate and made that play, you know, Breslow goes in, you know, with 2 outs and a runner on second, and it's not that bad of a situation. Instead, you know, both runs score, and then he's facing Beltran. Now, Beltran's a story because it was a question whether he was going to be in the game or not. Of course, he had that huge RBI in that at-bat, put him up 4-2, and essentially put the game away. What were your thoughts on Beltran's performance?
Beltran, 2 for 4 with an RBI in Game 2. Surprised to even see him in the lineup, to be honest with you. Batting second and playing right field, it was very surprising, and he came through and he showed everybody that even though he may be a little injured, and we saw that with the hit to left field that Gomes made a diving attempt on. Almost anybody has a double on that, but Beltran kind of dogged it for a single. So you can obviously see that Beltran's in a lot of discomfort, not dogging it because Beltran has a good reputation as a gamer, but you can definitely tell he's injured, but he's still in there making a presence.
Yeah, definitely. Huge catch in Game 1. Obviously, he's playing through the bruised ribs. So obviously the big thing with him is he was able to capitalize, and they didn't leave runners on base, which is kind of the opposite of what the Red Sox did. I think they had 12 runners left on base in the game last night. Really, just Napoli, you look at it especially. What do you think about all the runners left on base by the Red Sox moving forward? What can they do to change that?
It's tough. It's a tough stat for the Red Sox. Napoli was over 3 with 4 runners left on base. The Red Sox, as a team, had a lot more than that, and it was really detrimental to the Red Sox game plan. And when you look at the Cardinals, they're almost the exact opposite. Usually when the Cardinals get runners on base, they drive them in, and the Red Sox have been very good at that as well. So coming into the series, both of these teams were kind of categorized as 2 teams who, when they get runners on base, they come through in the clutch, and they're able to drive those runs in. Overall, they really haven't been able to do that. The Red Sox had a lot of success, obviously, offensively in Game 1, but they really struggled knocking in those runs off Michael Wacha and that bullpen in Game 2.
Definitely. I definitely agree with you. And I think a large part in that was also the Cardinals' pitchers' ability to get ahead in the count. You saw late in the late innings, especially with the bullpen, you saw every hitter, it seemed like they were down 0-2. Every pitch was a first pitch strike. So, I look at the Red Sox lineup and I'm thinking maybe they got to be more aggressive. Maybe they got to come out swinging, jump on those first pitch fastballs that the Cardinals pitchers in the bullpen want to give you. Because moving forward, that young bullpen looks really strong. In St. Louis, that's going to be a tough bullpen to crack, especially if they're going up 0-2 on every count. Now, with that, I want to transition into the 3 games we got coming into St. Louis. We got PV taking the ball in Game 3. What are you looking for from PV? Because the last time we saw PV, he didn't do so hot against the Tigers. So what are you looking for?
Well, with PV, when we saw him in the ALCS, he was very laid back in his preparation, friendly to the media, kind of a laid back attitude. And you thought, he's prepared. He's mentally okay with it. He's not gonna, stress out. And he didn't have a very successful performance. What we've seen so far from Jake Peavy is the same attitude. He's very laid back. He's not stressing over the bad start. Taking batting practice. He's having fun with it because obviously he's playing in the NL Park, so we'll have to take some at bats as well. So I'm not really sure if he has the same mindset. There's not much that makes me think he's going to be a totally different pitcher, but obviously Red Sox fans are looking for him to have a much more successful outing than he did in the ALCS.
Yeah, I don't predict that the whole pitching in a National League ballpark will affect him very much. He came up in a National League park. He's used to being in the lineup. I think he'll actually he'll look forward to that almost. I think that will help thrive him a little bit.
Sure.
But you look at the other side of the ball, you got Joe Kelly. Joe Kelly's going for the Cardinals. Now, Joe Kelly isn't exactly Wainwright or Wacha, but he's been pretty solid so far in the playoffs. He's not maybe a dominant pitcher, but what do the Sox have to do to crack Joe Kelly?
Another young pitcher, throws a lot of strikes, a lot like Michael Wacha and Adam Wainwright in ways, except for that Wainwright and Wacha are more power pitchers. They pitch to outs. Joe Kelly's more of a strike thrower. He pitches for ground balls. So I think, to your point of the Red Sox need to be more aggressive, they were aggressive in Game 1. They were coming out swinging at the early pitches. That's exactly what they need to do against Joe Kelly. They need to jump on those strikes. They can't let Joe Kelly control the strike zone because he's going to throw a lot of strikes. The Red Sox got to be swinging.
Okay, now a big storyline for the Red Sox has been the use of the DH and losing that usage. Obviously, you can't bench David Ortiz. 17 postseason home runs. The guy's got to be on the field. So David Ortiz is going to be playing first base. What is losing that extra batter in the Red Sox lineup going to do towards them?
Well, I think there's a lot of positives and negatives. Obviously you can't bench David Ortiz. 4 for 6 with 2 home runs and 5 runs batted in the series. That's phenomenal. We all know David Ortiz has the reputation of a great postseason performer. So you lose Napoli at first base, and that's the negative. But at the same time, you can view it in the positive light. You have another big bat off the bench. The Red Sox have been using pinch hitters all season, more than most American League teams do. And obviously the clutch hits we've seen all year from Johnny Gomes and Mike Carp and the likes of those. Now you add Napoli to that mix. Obviously a power bat who can deliver a late big hit that you need. So if you view it in that Napoli can come off the bench and be a big part of it, then it can be a positive. One
thing I'm going to look at, though, with losing the DH and having pitchers hit is the Red Sox don't have an incredibly deep bullpen. So how is it going to affect, when a relief pitcher has to come in and hit? Because they're not going to be able to pinch hit every time the pitcher comes around, right, because they don't have many guys that they could throw in there. You've seen Breslow take a lot of innings, Tazawa take a lot of innings, and Workman. But other than that, there hasn't really been a ton. So I think that's going to play a huge part into how the 3 games in St. Louis goes. Now I want to get back more into pitching with Buchholz, because he's been a huge question mark, and he's kind of thrown off the whole rotation in the World Series so far. He's supposed to go in Game 4. Hopefully he goes in Game 4. But what are your thoughts on Buchholz, coming out and saying he has one start left?
Well, I like the mindset in that he's mentally preparing himself for one last big start. And that's important for him to know. He needs to know that this is probably the biggest start of his career, and he needs to come out and deliver in St. Louis. It's obviously a little bit of a situation that he's feeling a little injured, but you have to think that Buchholz has been injured all year. I mean, he spent a lot of the time on the DL. He was probably pitching hurt a lot of the season, a season that he's had a lot of success on the mound. So hopefully the excitement of being in a World Series game can kill the pain a little bit. We'll see how he comes out, but I expect a successful outing.
All right, okay. Let me get your final prediction on the rest of the series. How's it going to go with it tied 1-1?
Well, it's going to be tough. They have to weather St. Louis. I think St. Louis obviously has the home field advantage. You have to think that losing Napoli in the everyday lineup is going to affect the Red Sox in some way. So I would say that the Red Sox need to take 2 out of 3 in St. Louis to be able to wrap up the series on their end.
I'm sticking with my prediction of Sox in 6. I think it looks good. You got Lackey taking the ball in Game 6. I think if they could take 1 or 2 in St. Louis, I think they're going to be all right. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for us at Spitfire Debates. Make sure to tune in for future episodes and go on to SuffolkVoice.net for articles and everything you need to know about the World Series and everything else. I'm Mike McMahon along with Ricky Morin. We'll see you next time.